The polis of Sparta was the greatest military land power of classical Greek antiquity. During the classical period, Sparta governed, dominated or influenced the entire Peloponnese. Additionally, the defeat of the Athenians and the Delian League in the Peloponnesian War in 431–404 BCE resulted in a short-lived Spartan dominance of the Greek world from 404 to 371 BCE. Due to their mistrust of others, Spartans discouraged the creation of records about their internal affairs. The only histories of Sparta are from the writings of Xenophon, Thucydides, Herodotus and Plutarch, none of whom were Spartans. Plutarch was writing several centuries after the period of Spartan hegemony had ceased. This creates difficulties in understanding the Spartan political system, which was distinctly different from any other Greek polis. History and rise to power. The Spartans had early conquered much of the Peloponnese and incorporated the territory into the enlarged Sparta state. Spartan society functioned within three classes: homoi or Spartiates, Perioretia, and the Helots. The Helots were captives of war and were state-owned slaves of Sparta. The Helots powered the city-state's agrarian economy and were the workforce. Additionally, the other class of working population in Spartan society were the Perioretia, meaning dwellers around, who were free peoples of conquered territories. The Perioretia were allowed to maintain their own infrastructures, administrative arrangements and local economy, but had to pay tribute to Sparta and provide soldiers for the military. The homoi were the citizens of Sparta. They were the elite class and were the only deserving of the title Spartan. As a result, the Spartan population was very small in comparison with the working classes. There was a ratio of 7 or 8 helots to every Spartan citizen. These three populations performed complementary functions that distinguished Sparta with a unique economic and social organization. While the helots and the Perioretia were the workforce in agriculture and industry, the Spartans could devote themselves to training, maintaining, and operating the military. The reason for the continual strong military existence was to preserve order in Sparta and hold the large enslaved populations in check. Sparta's post-Peloponnesian War regime. Lysander was the Spartan who, after the end of the Peloponnesian War in 404 BCE, established many of the foreign pro-Spartan governments throughout the Aegean. He also established many Spartan garrisons. Most of the polis ruling systems he set up were 10-man oligarchies called dikarchies. Harmosts, Spartan military governors, were left as the head of the dikarchies. As the men appointed who were loyal to Lysander rather than Sparta, this system has been described as Lysander's private empire. In this establishment of a new Aegean order, many lost their lives or were exiled, but on the other hand Aegina and Melos were restored to their former inhabitants. Sparta was divided over what to do about Athens itself. Lysander and King Aegeis were for total destruction, as were Sparta's leading allies Corinth and Thebes. However, a more moderate faction led by Pausanias gained the upper hand. Athens was spared, but her long walls and the fortifications of Piraeus were demolished. Lysander did manage to insert the significant condition that Athens recall her exiles. The return of the exiles to Athens contributed to the political instability of Athens, allowing Lysander to establish shortly the oligarchy that has come to be known as 30 tyrants, composed of men beholden to him. The danger of so much power being in the hands of one person had become sufficiently clear that both King Aegeis and King Pausanias agreed that Lysander's wings needed to be clipped. The dikarchies were declared abolished, and Athens quickly benefited when Sparta permitted democracy to be restored at Athens. Agesilaus and his campaigns. Agesilaus, too, was one of the two kings of Sparta during Sparta's hegemony. Plutarch later wrote that Agesilaus was a king of the traditional Spartan ideals, often seen wearing his traditional cloak which was threadbare. He began his kingship after the end of the Peloponnesian War after his brother Agesilaus II died and was left without an heir. One of Agesilaus' biggest supporters was the famous Spartan naval commander Lysander, who was previously Agesilaus' Erastor, or mentor. The campaigns Agesilaus' first campaign was one which trekked into the eastern Aegean and Persian territories via the Hellespont. He first descended upon the Phrygians and their leader Tissaphernes, who had broken a solemn league with the Greeks and had earned the downright contempt of the gods. He followed Tissaphernes into Persian territory. The Persian king, fearing further plundering of his country, ordered Tissaphernes beheaded. He then attempted to bribe Agesilaus with money to leave Asia Minor, remaining true to the Spartan ideals of austere living practices. Agesilaus rejected the gold, saying he would rather see it in his soldiers' hands than his own. Agesilaus did, however, remove his army into Phrygia. Grateful for the death of Tissaphernes, Agesilaus soon began another campaign into the western regions of the Persian Empire. Plutarch states that he wished to march his armies all the way to the Persian capital of Susa. He was unfortunately deterred by unpleasant news from Epictetus that the mainland Greek polis were starting war once again. This would later become known as the Corinthian War and featured an alliance between the Argives, Corinthians, Athenians and Thebans against Sparta. The Corinthian War took place between 395 and 386 BCE. In Greece, the Spartans under Agesilaus met the numerous rebelling polis. Among the most important battles were Coroni and Tegiri, fought against many Greeks but especially the Thebans. Tegiri was the site where the Thebans first defeated the Spartans. The Spartans sought the aid of the Persians, asking them to cut off their support of the Thebans, Corinthians and Athenians. The resulting Peace of Antalcidas, named for the Spartan who negotiated it, was established in 386 BCE and resulted in Sparta's loss of its Asian territories. The Boeotian War. During the winter of 379–378 BCE, a group of Theban exiles were able to sneak into the city and, despite the 1,500-strong Spartan garrison, succeed in liberating Thebes. During the next few years, Sparta mounted 4 expeditions against Thebes, which completely failed to bring Thebes to heel. Finally, the Greek city-states attempted a peace on the mainland by sending diplomats to meet with Agesilaus in Sparta. Epaminondas, the Theban diplomat, angered Agesilaus by arguing for the freedom of the non-Spartans of Laconia. Agesilaus then struck the Thebans out of the treaty. The ensuing Battle of Leuctra in 371 BCE marked the end of Spartan hegemony. Agesilaus himself did not fight at Leuctra so as not to appear too belligerent. Sparta after hegemony. During the Spartan hegemony in Athens there is evidence of criticism of democracy. A document in the 420s by a political writer known as the Old Oligarch demonstrates the anti-democratic sentiments in Athens. The Old Oligarch's political outlook is shaped by his belief that the economic classes were the source to political motivation. This view is a direct rejection of democracy's efforts to establish civil unity. The Old Oligarch argues that the polis by nature is a battlefield rather than a site of public dialogue because individuals side with their socio-economic rank. Yet, despite this anti-democratic feeling, democracy eventually returned to Athens after the expulsion of the 30 tyrants. The importance of Sparta in politics largely drops off after Sparta's defeat at Leuctra. Following Agesilaus' death in 360 BCE, Archidamus III became king and practiced a policy of non-conflict between Athens and the Second Naval Confederacy. Between 355 and 346 BCE, they allied with Athens against Thebes and the Amphictyonic Council, effectively pulling Theban attention away from the Peloponnese.